This is an 80-year wrong that President Trump is trying to fix.
It's a pressure cooker in Canada. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got premiers meeting, trying to figure out what to do if Donald Trump puts on 35% tariffs on Canada. We've got American senators that have come to Canada trying to work stuff out. We've got Pierre Poilievre coming in full support for Tamara Lynch, Chris Barber after their sentencing. There's a bunch of other stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we've got Abacus data with some polling data. Direction of the country / world. Canada is the red line. You can see it went up to 40%, and now it's starting to drop back down to 36%. So people starting to get a whiff of what Mark Carney's really up to, and that's to enrich himself. I'm sure this is right after his disclosures came out and people realized, oh, this guy's for America, not for Canada. You see this one here, direction of the country, Canada, 44% on the wrong track, 36% thinks on the right track. And look at America here, 11% on the right track and 79% on the wrong track. And we got this one, top issues facing Canada, the rising cost of living. It's been raising ever since the Liberals have gotten to power with Justin Trudeau. People need to figure this out. It's not the Conservatives that are doing this, it's the Liberals. But a strong second here is Donald Trump and his administration with 43%, followed by the economy, housing, healthcare, immigration. And we got this one here. It says, should Canada halt all immigration to India? The reason why there's so many people coming from India is their population is huge. It's 1.6 billion. That's why there's just more people that want to come here. But the Liberals have intentionally allowed so many people coming from India. I think this needs to be brought down to like here in line with all the rest of them, and they should be fairly distributed among at least the top 20 or so we don't get these culture pockets that are so heavily from one culture like India, because then it wipes out Canadian culture. It just replaces it with Indian culture, or it would be Philippines or China or whatever, but we're seeing most of the people coming from India. Got this one from Canada Proud. It says Justin Trudeau sent nearly 5 million to Mongolia to review and update the country's gender equality strategy just 1 week before leaving office. Just another briefcase sitting over there waiting for Justin Trudeau to pick up. Is that what that is? They're not reviewing anything. $5 million, give me a break. Where did the money really go? Maybe there's a briefcase with Justin Trudeau's name on it. Likely embezzlement. Yes, that's likely what it is. Got this one. It says Auditor General planning audit of international students program. It's about time. Moving ahead, will supply management be the thing that destroys Canada? At this point, it seems possible.
For us in Quebec, there's no question about negotiating the supply management for dairy and other products. Also, it's important to protect our cultural exemption, like French on tags and everything.
I mean, that's fine. If they don't want to negotiate supply management, totally fine. Then just cut them off of equalization payments. And you know what? Quebec should negotiate their own deal with America, have their own trade agreement with America, and the rest of Canada will do ours. That's what should happen. If they're not going to negotiate this, it's time to cut off Quebec. Start having two different trade agreements. Willing to throw Canada under the bus for supply management. It's time to get rid of this stupid supply management. It's ruining our country. He will win, the rest will lose. I got Table Salt posting this. I think my absolute favorite thing that happens in Canada is this: when supply management dairy or chicken farmers hire temporary foreign workers because they need cheap labor to function in a completely captive market. Literally, there's no competition or imports allowed. This whole system has to change, or Quebec has to do their own deals, because they will not destroy the rest of this country. There's a lot of provinces with a lot of bad leaders, and Quebec is right at the top of the list, along with David Eby in British Columbia.
Let's talk a little more about this August 1st deadline we mentioned, Dwayne. We know it was actually today. July 21st was supposed to be when we were supposed to have the trade deal, but that got pushed to August 1st. Now, the Prime Minister is meeting with some of the senators from the U.S., a delegation in Ottawa. He's expected to meet with all the premiers tomorrow. And while we try and discuss the trade, there is also this other thing about so-called national unity some premiers have been pushing for. Do you see that really happening? Because you also mentioned how we have Scott Moe, Premier Daniel Smith, and on the other end, for example, David Eby, not on the same page.
Oh, exactly. And we don't know if August 1st is a real deadline or what negotiations actually mean. So Trump over the weekend said, well, we're not going to do deals. I'm just going to send letters out. What does that mean? And we keep pushing back deadlines because if he goes ahead with 35% tariffs in Canada, whether or not CUSMA is protected, that's still going to greatly damage the Canadian economy. So, for example, softwood lumber is not part of CUSMA. We're already seeing the effects on steel and auto sector tariffs. So while this is going to hurt the United States, it could very well hurt Canada as well. And the question is, how do we respond to that? And how do you respond to someone who deals with negotiations like Donald Trump?
Indeed. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Are we really going to sacrifice the rest of Canada and Canada's industries like softwood lumber for the dairy cartel, for supply management? We're going to let our entire economy collapse because of one greedy industry that has a stranglehold, and there's a lot of people with high up connections in the government with big financial ties. We're going to let our entire economy collapse because of the dairy industry in Canada. We'll go down as the stupidest country in human history if this is what happens from this. Cut the electricity off. It's just, it doesn't work. If we cut off the electricity, then we make way less money. That hurts us as much as it hurts them. They'll fill that in. They're 12.7 times bigger than us. We could cut off the oil. We could cut off electricity. It would hurt them, but it would devastate us. Moving ahead, we've got American senators asked about the whole situation.
Senator Murkowski, if I could just ask you, you mentioned you're the 49th. You don't want to sort of move down that list. You want to respect the borders. How do you explain the rhetoric that we continue to hear from the from the president? And how do you explain to Republicans now what Canadians feel? And do you think you can help sort of turn the tide to maybe get more people on your side of the border?
I cannot explain President Trump's rhetoric about the 51st state. That is his statement, but I think it has been made very, very clear that most view that as nothing more than a positioning statement, if you will, something to maybe agitate. I don't think that that's constructive, quite honestly. Certainly here in Canada, you can sense that there is a direct hostility, if you will, to that suggestion. So my advice to the president, not that he will take it willingly, is that constructive dialogue is going to be what reinforces this longstanding relationship between these two countries, where you have a 5,000-mile border, where you have shared interests, shared values. So suggesting things that you know are really not within the realm of the possible are not necessarily constructive.
Hold on one sec so I can just add to them. 4 senators here, both political parties, spent the morning working to build bridges, not throw wrenches.
So how likely is a deal by August 1st? How likely is a deal by August 1st?
We're going to go
between the White House?
How likely is a deal? Not likely, because Mark Carney's working for America. Canadian Liberals voted him in to do that. I should note, this guy here is a Democrat. I'm not sure about the other ones. And so a lot of the Democrat senators, they're already supportive of the Liberals. So whether Americans come up here or not, it doesn't change anything. Donald Trump's going to do a deal, and the deal has to be good for America. And what is Mark Carney not negotiating? Supply management to not get a deal here. That's what's going on. What is he not negotiating? Clearly, the Trump administration says the Canadians are too hard to deal with. Mark Carney and his team are not budging on something that Trump wants. Likely they've got friends with big bank accounts that don't want to have that supply management system rocked. I can talk about it because I don't give a crap. I have no financial ties to it. I can speak freely on it, but I mean, a lot of politicians can't. Basically, no politician talks about it ever. It's a corrupt system that must go in the garbage where it belongs. Moving ahead, we've got Howard Ludnick here.
Canada is not open to us. They need to open their market. Unless they're willing to open their market, they're going to pay a tariff. That's a simple message the president has. It's fair trade. It's reciprocal trade. Why should we have our country be wide open while theirs is closed? This
sure sounds like he's talking about supply management, doesn't it?
Is an 80-year wrong that President Trump is trying to fix, and our businesses are going to really, really enjoy it. I think the president's going to open between $300 and $400 billion of opportunity for Americans. That's 1.5%, up to 1.5% GDP growth, because the president's going to open all these markets up. Yeah. You saw it with Vietnam. You saw it with Indonesia. You're going to watch all these other countries decide if they want to do business with America. Let's just open our market up to America. America. That's opportunity that President Trump is bringing.
It's pretty crazy that I can buy something from China, free shipping, it comes in a week, no tariffs, no duties, no nothing. But if I buy something from America, it comes with massive duties and huge tariffs. And those tariffs are not American tariffs. Those are the tariffs that Mark Carney put on American products, such as if I wanted to buy a backpack from a backpacking company in America, a $300 backpacking bag then becomes $700 after tariffs and duties because they put sporting goods as one of the reciprocal tariffs on American products. Sure, they say, oh, we'll put it on stuff that doesn't affect anything. When it comes down to it, though, Canada doesn't have a lot of stuff. For example, like you're talking backpacking, ultralight backpacking only exists really in America. That's where you can get that stuff. It's very hard to find that kind of equipment in Canada because no one makes it here. So these reciprocal tariffs won't work. If the Liberals and all the premiers gang up on Donald Trump and put all these reciprocal tariffs, Trump's just going to increase the number. He's just going to go from 35 to 50 to 60. He'll just pull another random number out of his hat that's 50%, 100% more. And he won't even care. He'll just do it and then walk away and go deal with something else. The Liberals need to be very careful what they do next. Moving ahead, we've got all these premiers meeting, trying to sort out the Donald Trump tariff situation, how they're going to retaliate. Are they going to retaliate as of August 1st? David Eby posting this, let's hold the line, coming from a guy who cut life-saving medication from a little girl. Saying hold the line, trying to be brave is ridiculous.
I just wonder your sense of, do the Americans sort of get it? I ask this because, we've seen some comments from the U.S. ambassador to Canada sort of justifying the president's characterization of Canadians as mean and nasty in the negotiations, expressing frustration over the retaliatory measures like hauling booze off shelves, which you've done in B.C. I mean, what's your sense of just the depths of the understanding the Americans have about sort of the offense that has been done to Canada here?
I really think that at the leadership levels, there's very little awareness. The ambassador specifically said that Canadians were mean and nasty for not buying American alcohol and for boycotting the U.S. in terms of travel. And at the same time, do they think that Canadians are not going to respond when the president says, I want to turn you into the 51st state and beggar you economically unless you bow to the U.S.? Obviously, Canadians are outraged. I say Canadians stick with it, hold the line. But at the end of the day, we need to get past that. When the Americans come up to visit in British Columbia, they're saying things like, I'm sorry. We're friends, we're neighbors, we're partners. Canadians feel the same way about everyday Americans. And I think the president is really out on his own on this.
Out on his own, huh? This is the guy who cut life-saving medication from a little girl. He also selectively chose to block stumbling juice from red states and not blue states. Everything he's done has hurt the current situation, not to mention allowing BC Ferries to dish out a $1 billion contract to China when we're supposed to be doing nation-building projects. David Eby's an absolute loser. Eby better be careful or Americans will boycott BC street fennel. Ooh, that hits him right in the heart, doesn't it? Wait, who's recently bought ferries from China? The comment section's hilarious. With that in mind, here's this buffoon, Mark Carney, meeting with the King of Jordan, as Canada Proud says, the second largest recipient of Canadian foreign aid. I haven't verified that, but a lot of money does go over there.
And may I, on behalf of all Canadians, thank you for the steadfast friendship and partnership between our countries, partners in trade and security, in peacekeeping. And if I may as well, Your Majesty, compliment you on your personal role in enforcing peace and security in the region. And never has that been more important. I'll reiterate the message that Canada and 25 other nations delivered today, calling for an immediate ceasefire, of course, the release of all the hostages, but also the resumption at scale of humanitarian aid. I know you stand ready to play a leadership role there, as always. But also, we fully reject any attempt to separate, to change the demographic or territorial makeup of the Palestinian occupied territories.
Anytime I look at Carney now, I just see an American. The guy's so heavily invested. It's funny, look at this comment. Why isn't Jordan giving Canada aid? We're broke. Apparently Jordan is rich. Carney's most likely asking the King of Jordan how much money they would like. It certainly wouldn't be a conversation that benefits Canadians. It's nice to be paid a visit from the King of Jordan. We got this story that's blown up. So Pierre Poilievre came out with this tweet, says, let's get this straight. While rampant bad offenders are released hours after their most recent charges, anti-Semitic rioters vandalized business businesses, terrorize daycares, block traffic without consequences. The Crown wants 7 years prison time for the charge of mischief for Lynch and Barber. How is this justice? There are so many stories in the news of people doing horrible things. Like I mentioned yesterday, 2 guys from India who dragged a Canadian man, a father, under their car, knowing he's under the car. Someone pointed out, hey, there's a guy under your car, and he was still alive. They stepped on the pedal and dragged this guy and ended him. And what did Canada do? They handed these guys over to India and recommended 3 years in jail. 3 years. You've got Tamara Lynch and Chris Barber, 7 and 8 years in jail for mischief. Our justice system is broken, but now it's being put on display how broken it is. We got an example of it here. We no longer live in a free country. Tamara Lynch, 7 years for protesting. Chris Barber gets another additional year, and his truck is going to get destroyed. How does that help anything? Destroying a man's livelihood doesn't do anything, doesn't help anyone, doesn't serve any justice. Meanwhile, we've got Mangpreet Gill involved in liquor store robbery. Wrong way highway 401 crash, ended 4 people including a baby, got 5.5 months, sentence kept under 6 months to avoid automatic deportation. This isn't a made up story, it's right here. Even the CBC reported this. Manpreet Gill, a sole passenger riding the cargo van, pursued by police, faces 13 charges, ended 4 people including a baby, handed a 5.5 month jail term, accounting to more than time served and 2 years probation. Our country's screwed because the justice system isn't working. It's selective justice in Canada. It's no longer a fair system, it's selective justice. This is that story where those robbery thieves were driving into oncoming traffic on the highway. That's who Manpreet Gill is. He was the passenger. The driver did perish. Manpreet Gill was out on probation after breaching twice. This guy's an oncoming accident. This guy surely should be charged more than Tamara Lynch and Chris Barber, yet he only gets 5.5 months. And a baby perished? A family of 5? Got this guy, Akash Kumar Kant, tried to buy pleasure times from a 15-year-old, got house arrest. Judge didn't want to delay his citizenship. We got Simieritsch Singh, exposed himself for 20 minutes inside a woman's home while installing internet. House arrest, judge cited deportation risk. Once again, Canada has selective justice, whatever works best for the Liberals.